you say that nature tells us many things, but we don't really listen to it. We don't watch it so much.
The concept is leaving many canvases, blank canvases, in various parts of Abu Dhabi, in the desert, buried in the desert, in the mangroves. It's a right true collaboration with nature and the natural world. So all the elements that we've talked about, the wind, the rain, sun, beating down, but also the natural world, insects and gazelles and other creatures. And it sort of addresses all these issues, what are we doing to nature? How can we respect nature more?
Hi, Mark. Welcome to the Shades of Life podcast.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
So, Mark, you are a golden visa artist in the UAE, which is very intriguing. And you have just launched a new solo exhibition, which we are going to talk about it later. But to get acquainted with you, can you start by telling us what is your background? Where are you from? Because you are not from the UAE. And how did you become an artist, especially?
Well, oh gosh, right from the very beginning. So I'm from London initially, and I was at art school in London, Central St Martin's. But before that, I was always drawing. My father was a book publisher, and he used to publish maps, atlases. So I used to sort of create my own world, my own drawings.
Nice. Yeah.
So I was drawing when I was a kid. So I was lucky to go to art school, and then I always felt I needed to travel and to see the world and to absorb everything as an artist or an art student. So I did an exchange program when I was at Central to this school in Baltimore in America for 6 months, and that was wonderful, and it shaped my work, the colors and the discovery of abstract expressionism and pop art. And then when I left art school, I went to Italy to do a postgraduate in Florence. So that also shaped, very different, different work, Renaissance Florence, but the colors are still in my work, I think. So traveling has always been an important part of my work, and working on various different projects with, I had a studio in London for many years, and so traveling back and forth to Italy. But then I was invited to join Formula One and become an artist with them, the official artist. So I traveled the world with them, so I got to see all these amazing countries, which is fantastic. And the gallery, sorry, I've skipped ahead a bit, but the gallery before the Formula One in London were taking my work to Abu Dhabi to the art fair. This was Waterhouse and Dodd in London, and when it was in the Emirates Palace, very sort of lavish gold bling palace. It's a Mandarin Oriental hotel, but that's when I sold work to the Crown Prince, who's now the president of Abu Dhabi, Sheikh Mohammed bin Nahyan. And so that was a big map that I made, a big 2-meter map. So that's when my association with Abu Dhabi started.
Yeah. Amazing.
That was like 7, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. So art and travel has always been very much linked to you and has influenced your work very much so.
Yes, it really has, because my work is I think is about sort of navigation and migration and sort of maps and charts and all these sort of elements and symbols movement. And I've been inspired by many artists over the years too, you know, who are also travelers.
Yes, so I wanted to ask you a question about this because you told me you've been inspired by French artists. You probably told me this because I'm French, but you've told me also you've been inspired by Greek mythology in your work. So can you tell us more about that and what are the influences that have spoken to you more and why?
Yeah, I mean, when I left art school, I was quite a sort of more romantic, you know, I wanted to sort of, well, I discovered the great works of a French artist called Odilon Redon, who I told you about before.
Yeah.
And he would illustrate these sort of Greek mythology, like Pyramus and Thisbe, and he do these sort of big cyclopses and all these amazing graphic pieces. And in his early life, he was painting just with black and white and drawing and printing. And then he discovered color quite late on in life. So this beautiful explosion, I mean, not discovered color, but started.
Yeah, it's similar to Van Gogh because when he started, it was very dark in his paintings and then he went to colors. Yeah, that's interesting.
With these beautiful sort of pastels, very fresh, vibrant pastels, but still with you know, with the mythology and the winged horses, and it just sort of had a real resonance with me. I just loved this notion of interpretation of a mythology.
Yeah.
And maybe that's where I start this. It was almost like he was collaborating with these sort of mythological figures, bringing them back to life, you know, from stories. And he had a great teacher. He had great teachers as well, French teachers. So I found that I was sort of doing. I was doing similar things, and that's when I also discovered this American artist called Robert Rauschenberg. This was back in the 80s, and I found that all the sort of questions that I was putting into my work as a student, you know, you're just experimenting, aren't you? And I saw many of these sort of answers in Rauschenberg's work. It was incredible. This sort of sensibility that Redon and Rauschenberg. Actually, I'm fascinated by all these artists that surnames begin with R, which is really, I don't know, that was certainly a big coincidence, because also oh gosh, what was the great Rossetti, Dante Gabriel Rossetti, another romantic artist from the pre-Raphaelite period in London, and just outside London. So yeah, that's quite bizarre. But so these great influences. I mean, as a student, we need influence. I mean, you know, in life we're influenced by.
Yeah, and it's what resonates with you. This is why the question is interesting, because it is what resonates with you, because it's gonna already make us enter your world and, you know, what influenced you. And then obviously you create your own style, but the influences are always interesting to see. Yeah.
Absolutely. And also knowing that there are other artists that have similar sensibility. And as I said before, and a sort of a similar knowledge of where where they are in the world and where they are on that sort of journey. So that was really exciting for me to be able to.
Yeah. Amazing. So I wanted to ask you, Mark, if we ignore Formula One, because it's going to be my next question, but if you had to pick one main highlight from your career as an artist so far, something that has been a particular moment for you and will always remain a special memory, what would it be and why?
Oh gosh, I'm not sure if I could pinpoint one really.
I know people hate to choose. They hate these questions, but it's always interesting if you pick one.
Maybe I'll say that it hasn't happened yet, but no,
Good one.
well, no, I mean, of course, traveling, but meeting Robert Rauschenberg was the great highlight for me. Meeting this artist when I was in America, I had the opportunity to meet him very briefly at this sort of symposium in Maryland, and gave me a big hug. And it's wonderful. But then I realized afterwards that I was propping him up because he was really drunk. So it was a warm embrace, but basically I was just keeping him from falling down.
Sounds like an Hemingway type of evening.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
That was a big, I mean, you know, to meet him. I mean, they sort of say that you shouldn't meet your heroes, but I don't know why they would say that. I mean, everyone would love to. But
I suppose not to be disappointed, but if it's a good encounter, why not?
well, indeed, yeah, absolutely. But then there have been, yeah, I mean, I guess if one thinks about it, there's been lots of different episodes where, or times where it's been a sort of, yeah, a pivotal moment in one's career, artistically speaking, or maybe non-artistically, but I mean, yeah, the Formula One was great, traveling the world.
So
Yeah.
Formula One, I'm going to stop you here. So to explain to people, you were the official artist for Formula One for many years, and it's made you travel the world, as you said. Can you explain to people, can you give us some background about that? And I wanted to ask you, what did you learn from this experience? What do you retain from it?
Yeah, well, it's sort of my association with Formula One started actually here in Abu Dhabi.
Okay.
15 years ago, I was commissioned to commemorate the opening of the new Formula One circuit here in Abu Dhabi. That was 2009.
Yeah.
And we sort of pitched that through the gallery, and that was like 10 paintings. And that was, as I'll talk to you about, I'll talk later about collaboration. You know, that's really important in work, collaborations. And that was a big collaboration with the drivers and from that year. And I got them to write pieces of poetry.
That's amazing.
Not their own poetry,
Okay.
but this artist, poet Rudyard Kipling, a very famous piece called If.
Oh yeah, I love
And
it. That's one of my favorites. Yeah.
and there's a fine line in Formula One between winning and losing, of course, in all sport. And so I thought that was quite appropriate for each driver to write a line or two lines of the poem. There was like 20 drivers, so I got all these all their writings to pass through the work.
Wow.
And in Arabic, we got it translated in Arabic too, which is very difficult. But and with images, so that was showcasing the new circuit and Abu Dhabi and the writing. So they loved all that, and then we had an exhibition in the paddock just before the race, and then that's where I first met Bernie Ecclestone, and he came to the exhibition and saw my work. So he then commissioned me to make paintings of every race, showcasing the race, you know, and capturing the sort of the very essence or spirit of each Formula One race. Of course, it's not just about the cars; it's about the community and the drivers, the community, the spirit, the smells, I mean, I try to put all that into the work and this sort of traveling circus, which is incredible, really, going from one city to another.
So where did you go in the world with them?
Well, they do go literally all around the world. I mean,
Everywhere.
from Australia, Japan, Canada, China.
Did each country influence your paintings if you were doing paintings every time, right?
Yeah, some. I mean, yeah, Japan had a. I've got some visitors. But this is all part of the podcast, isn't it?
Hi, Ingrid.
Hi.
Can you tell Ingrid what you think about the show?
Yeah, did you enjoy the exhibition?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I was saying that I like that there's like you get to see the process of the work, where the process becomes a work in itself, where let's say you have an object or like a piece of canvas that was sort of relating to a tree or even interacting with the tree, and then you see an image of that tree. I feel like it's a nice in between like something scientific or something that showcases a structured methodology, but also it's still poetic and there's still that painterly approach to, I guess, the documentation of something. So yeah, I really like it. I like
It's
it.
amazing. It's really.
Amazing, thank you.
You're in. You're famous in Abu Dhabi.
I will find it.
So, Mark, we were talking about Formula One and how some countries perhaps have inspired your work more, and you were talking about Japan in particular.
Japan and Korea, yes. Well, they had a race in Korea at that time as well. South Korea. A lot of my work has sort of decorative elements as well. I love the decoration and the decorative that you see in everyday life, whether it's on the railings, or on the side of buildings or whatever. And yeah, and that really struck me in Korea and Japan, the beautiful decorations, the decorative adornments on everything. Absolutely gorgeous. So that had an influence. And China was interesting too, but because I was followed in China wherever I went, and
Oh, okay.
which was really funny because even though I was there with Formula One, but I was an artist, and I mean, maybe they think we're all subversive troublemakers.
Oh, you were a star already.
Quite like that, yeah, because they were taking pictures of me taking pictures of everything. It's quite bizarre, and of course all my social media was blocked. But anyway, China was a great. I mean, it was actually Shanghai, which is like it's not really old China. I mean, there's an old section, but it's all very much modern and new,
Yeah.
and
So,
then
yeah.
and of course all over Europe and I mean, and actually Brazil was a big influence as well. And I've gone back to Brazil many times to do projects in these favelas in southern Brazil.
Yeah. So how important would you say this Formula One experience has been for you in your career as an artist overall?
The experience of traveling with Formula One.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been great because it's enabled me to build up many sort of close connections with many universities around the world as also. And I talk about my work and I do workshops and projects with various organizations. So Formula One has given me that, and sort of building these or creating these lasting connections, which was amazing. And I still go back to some of these places like Singapore. I was offered exhibitions in Singapore and in Canada and where else? Singapore, Canada, I had some shows. Austin, Texas, I go back a lot.
Okay.
Shows as well. So yeah, it's been great. I mean, I don't do an awful lot with them these days. I still do some projects like rolling. I mean, I have association with Pirelli tires and we create these paintings by inking up the Pirelli F1 tires with the drivers.
Okay.
In fact, I did this in Monaco. I often have shows there as well with Formula One, and we did this with Prince Albert and his kids and Charles Leclerc, the driver, painting by rolling the tires. And they made this like 10-meter painting, which is great.
Amazing.
I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. I have a friend who is a big fan of Monaco Formula One, so I'll have to find a reference to his paintings.
Yeah.
So, Mark, I wanted to ask you, how did you decide then to move to the UAE, as a British artist? And what were the deciding factors for you? So how long have you been there? And then, how did you decide to move there?
Well, so I've been here 2 years, but as I say, my association goes back 15 years with Abu Dhabi. So I built up these connections over the years, coming back and forth. And my girlfriend, we were talking about maybe coming over here. She's a teacher.
Yeah.
And so she applied for this job at this school, Cranley School, which is, I'm looking at it as I speak.
Okay.
It's just and it's one of the best schools in the region. And she got the position as head of drama at the school. So we decided to move over.
Okay.
And we're really enjoying it.
Yeah.
So you can, and now, the laws, things are changing here, becoming more liberal as well. I mean, you don't have to be married in order to live with somebody. You can,
Okay.
so,
You are obviously not. Yeah, yes, you will be. So actually, I wanted to ask you, for people who, like me, are not familiar with the culture, can you tell us what you like the most there, since you've been there over the past 2 years? And I'm also asking the question to perhaps help build bridges, because, I certainly have this perception, but when you are not from the Middle East, it can be an intimidating region. So what do you like the most about it?
Yeah, I do love it. I mean, there's a lot of misconceptions and sort of falsities about Abu Dhabi's people, about Abu Dhabi and about this region in particular. In fact, the UAE is a very sort of liberal state, really, and it's not. Of course, it's not. It has a ruler, a kingdom. Dubai has a different ruling family, but they're one country. But everything works. It's this notion of, people say to me, "Well, it's not a democracy," and I say, "Well, what is a democracy?" What's the different? Democracies around the world are falling apart, and I'm from the UK, and they're in a royal mess right now.
Problems everywhere. Yeah.
But yeah, I was given a golden visa as an artist. They were encouraging artists and scientists and professors to come and spread their knowledge, and
Yeah, I was amazed when you told me this. So can you explain to people what is a golden visa then?
Well, it's sort of recognizing someone as that can really sort of impart this sense of knowledge and achievement and build up. I don't know if I can do that as an artist, but they definitely do want to bring in, you know, that sort of, I mean, that, you know, the Emirati population is quite small, and their culture is so important, and there's this almost this new sensitivity here as well to really keep and hold on to the Emirati culture. But saying that, they still want to encourage people from all around the world, artists, as I say, scientists and professors and mathematicians, and to ply their trade here.
Yeah.
And so normally, if you get a visa, it's like 1 year and you renew it, or 2 years if you're working, if you're depending on your work. But a golden visa is 10 years.
Oh, okay, so it's,
So
I actually thought it was for life, so it's 10 years, okay.
that can be renewed every 10
Okay.
years. And so you can come and go. You know, I can go back to London for you know, for some
And come
months. I
back,
don't need.
yeah.
Yeah, and you can. I mean, if you have family, they can come in on that visa as well.
Oh,
There's certain advantages of having the golden visa.
okay, yeah,
Not huge.
amazing. Yeah, yeah,
You've
yeah.
got. Oh, you have a little gold square on your visa.
Okay. So it's got somewhere. That's good to know. So Mark, you are opening a new, well, you have just opened a new solo exhibition in Abu Dhabi, and it will stay there until the 30th of June at the end of this month. It is called A Conversation with Nature, which is a very inspiring title. We will take a short tour of it with you later, but for now, please, can you tell us what this exhibition is about?
Yeah, so it's something that I've been thinking about for some years, and I've been able to realize it in this beautiful art center. This is called the Manarat Al Sadiat, and it's in the cultural district of Abu Dhabi. And they are sort of building. I mean, the Louvre Abu Dhabi is already up and running, which is an amazing building, great collection, and they're building the new Guggenheim Museum.
Yeah.
Which has been designed by Frank Gehry, who designed the other Guggenheims. And then there's the Natural History Museum, really all close by. And then there's this sort of design museum and the Sheikh Zayed National Museum. So they're all opening at the end of next year. So it's a really good time to be in this district, the cultural district of Sadiat. And Sadiat in Arabic means happiness. So it's
nice.
So yeah, so I'm very happy to be able to be invited to put this show together here. And basically the concept is leaving many canvases, blank canvases, in around various parts of Abu Dhabi, in the desert, buried in the desert, in the mangroves, in bushes, lots of bushes. I mean, I've been seen climbing out of bushes. I mean, I probably wonder what I'm doing. And burying, you know, on rooftops and all sorts of places. So, and I left the canvases for 3 months. And it was, you know, the timing was pretty good because actually we've had terrific storms here. Heavy storms.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I was going to ask you, did it rain? But yes, it did. Oh my God, yeah.
Oh gosh, we've had some lot of rain and flooding. I mean, I've lost a couple of canvases that are probably floating towards Kuwait right now.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
We are having an afterlife.
They're making their own story. Yeah. So, and then after 3 months, I collected them. So nature has started the process of the painting, which is what I always wanted. So it's a right, true collaboration with nature and the natural world. So all the elements that we've talked about, you know, the wind, the rain, sun, you know, beating down, but also the natural world, you know, insects and gazelles and, you know, other creatures. leaving their mark on the canvases. And so I wasn't entirely sure how it all pan out, but you get these amazing chance sort of happenings, these sort of serendipitous moments, beautiful. And then I would almost like converse with nature and start that conversation and that collaboration with me putting my own sort of embellishments and marks. But and I was sort of documenting, I mean, I'll show you when you see the work, but so it's all documented as well in the form of photography. I mean, I use a lot of photography in my work anyway, and also capturing or putting the coordinates of where the canvases were. Okay. So it's, yeah, I mean, and it works. I think it works well as a whole series, and it's sort of capturing people's imagination here. It's really nice. It's something very simple, but it has great impact, which is often the case.
I think it's a beautiful, beautiful story and a beautiful way to create. It's, as you said, co-creating with nature, but also for you as an artist, it's surrendering to the process because it's nature starting, the work, and then you take it from a certain point.
Yeah, absolutely, and it sort of addresses all these issues. What are we doing to nature? What how can we respect nature more and address all these points? And last year was the COP28 conference in Dubai, so it's all very sort of local and it sort of resonates because it was so close.
Yeah. So I think you touched base on this already, but I wanted to ask you where the exhibition is taking place. So you said it's a cultural center in Abu Dhabi. I wanted to ask you, is it a significant place from an artistic point of view? Obviously, there are new buildings being built that are going to be open in a year or in 2 years, within the next few years. But also, what does this place represent from a community point of view? Because you are an artist, so is it where artists create exhibitions? Is it more of an artistic center?
Yes, there is, and there's a lot of curated shows here by various individuals from around the world. So there's lots of big galleries, and they have the big art fair here.
Okay.
The art fairs around the world, different cities. Well, the Abu Dhabi Art Fair takes place here at the Manarat, Al Shariat. So they have big spaces, and this is a separate gallery as part of the main building, but another little space, or smaller space rather. Yeah, they do put on big shows. I mean, in fact, when it opened, I came to the opening of the gallery, and they had a big show from the Gagosian. Larry Gagosian selected these. He was invited to come over to do this big show, actually with Robert Rauschenberg. He was in the exhibition, and Andy Warhol and Richard Serra and Cy Twombly. So really amazing opening.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. Yeah. I definitely would love to visit it in the future when they open the Guggenheim, because I love the Guggenheim museums. So yeah, that sounds really good.
Spectacular. I mean, I can see it rising up.
Yeah.
And the design, like the Louvre Museum, is amazing design.
Yeah.
Sort of lovely dome that's sort of open, and you see the shafts of light coming through the dome onto the courtyard. So it's beautiful.
Yeah, I went to the Bilbao Guggenheim Museum last year, and well, it's going to be probably the same for yours, but yeah, it's built as a boat. It looks amazing on the outside, but inside, the architecture. Obviously the art is beautiful, but the architecture, just the architecture itself of the museum, is worth to go there. It's almost like an exhibition in itself.
Absolutely, and you'll see this one here, the Guggenheim, it's like a series of boxes and shapes and cones and boxes that have been put together on a big scale.
Yeah,
Incredible.
definitely. So coming back to your exhibition, what was your deepest motivation to put this exhibition together? What vital messages do you want to share with people through it?
Oh, well, I just felt that it was apposite, the right time, as I said before, on the back of COP28, and there's these issues are being addressed, especially in the Middle East, because then again there's all these sort of misconceptions of all these sort of cities being built and these clearing great swathes of land and killing off all these the wildlife and everything, but actually there's a real sort of sense of respect for nature here.
Okay.
And I wanted to sort of address that as well, to to sort of we cannot destroy nature. If we destroy nature, then we go. Then we go. I mean, it's like losing the bees. If there are no bees in the world, then there are no humans. And I think there are sort of this whole notion of sustainability and reverence and just understanding the natural world and how it works and operates and how nature is so important to the all ecosystems, ecosystem of life. And I mean, as an artist, everything we do comes from nature pretty much. The shapes, the forms, the colors, it's all found in nature. So yeah, I wanted to, as I said, my work is always very collaborative. So what better collaboration than to work with nature,
Yeah.
and to speak to or listen to nature and converse. I think if we
Such a
listen to
beautiful
nature,
idea. Yeah.
yeah, if we listen to nature, then we'll maybe understand each other more, ourselves more as well. Communication is important in the world, but then I'm sort of stating the obvious in many ways, but
Well, that leads us beautifully to my next question to you, Mark, because you said that nature tells us many things, but we don't really listen to it. We don't watch it so much. So I wanted to ask you, because you are local now in Abu Dhabi, can you tell us about the diversity of nature one finds in the UAE? And can you help us visualize its beauty through your own words? Because I'm not familiar with it, with where you are. So what can you tell us about the diversity of nature in the UAE? And also I wanted to ask you, is it this diversity as well that made you choose the locations where you left the paintings?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. There are certain that, I mean, the mangroves are very special places. I mean, all around the world where there are mangroves, because it's the wildlife that it attracts. Or there are, in fact, Saadiyat, where we are, is an island. It's like an archipelago, a small archipelago, Abu Dhabi, but this is a natural island. There are some man-made islands around Abu Dhabi, and some man-made mangroves. That attracts all the wildlife, really important to the ecosystem. And the birds, I mean, the birds are incredible, all sorts of birds here, the ones that, and you hear them, I mean, there's a lot of trees around here. And there's a special tree, which is the national tree of Abu Dhabi. It's called the gaff tree. And it's the national tree because the founder or the ruler of Abu Dhabi, the founder of modern Abu Dhabi, Sheikh Zayed, he would often be seen sort of contemplating life, sitting next to or up against a gaff tree. So that then became the national tree, and they're all preserved. In fact, you can be prosecuted if you harm a gaff tree.
Wow.
And they're all around. So one of the paintings I put in the roots of a gaff tree.
Okay.
No gaff tree was harmed during the making of this exhibition.
Okay.
And that was, yeah, so that was very special, leaving there in the desert. There's a lot of them in the desert, but also, yeah, in the mangroves and the sea. I left some near on the beach and the rushes of the sea, where we have a lot of turtles here as well. And there are turtle sanctuaries here in Abu Dhabi. They've just opened a new SeaWorld, Abu Dhabi. Now, I don't really, I don't feel comfortable with like sort of captive sea creatures in this sort of sea world, because we're really close to the sea here, and there's dolphins swimming happily and dancing and jumping. But what SeaWorld has a sort of a rescue sanctuary part of.
Done a bit of work with them, and yeah, I totally agree with everything you're saying. Yeah.
So that's good having that, but
Absolutely.
I don't keeping these and they have these sort of sea creatures called gudgeons, which I never really knew before, but funny creatures. But yeah, they're all sort of. But SeaWorld is a big draw, which is what they're doing in Abu Dhabi. They want the world to come to Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, it's more to attract people. Yeah. Well, obviously, hopefully your exhibition will attract people. That's what we want.
Yes, yeah, and it's a show that I want to continue in other cities. I mean, I've been asked to do something in this city north in the UAE called Ras Al Khaimah. Khaimah. I have to pronounce it correctly, Ras Al Khaimah, and Dubai, maybe Dubai as well.
So it could be an exhibition that travels from city to city where you are.
Exactly, yeah. Absolutely. It's sort of legs, so to speak.
Yeah. So Mark, sustainability is a topic we discussed together. I wanted to ask you, are you concerned about the decline of nature overall? Because there is a big decline in species, whether it's animals or plants, for example, and it certainly impacts the region where you live today. And I also wanted to ask you, is it something you would plan to continue to incorporate in your work moving forward in one way or another? Because I actually don't know if this first exhibition, is it the first one you do that is so centered around nature and sustainability?
Yes, pretty much. I think absolutely. This is quite a unique project for me, and and absolutely, it's sort of touched me. It's because there's so much conversation about our carbon footprints and so recognizing our connection with the natural world and what we're doing, and we need to act responsibly to preserve the future for future generations. So that is very much I mean, this is going to stay with me for moving forward. I mean, this project that I can it can grow and develop and into other I've got so many different ideas. Maybe I have too many, but I mean, that's a good thing, I guess. But it's just sort of.
That's right.
No. I mean, I just like to think it's all about respecting nature, and knowing and recognizing its intrinsic value. In sort of minimizing our sort of ecological footprints and stuff, and conserving resources and all that. So it's I think as an artist, I can discuss all these points and these issues, and I mean, I don't have any of the answers, but I can pose the questions.
Yeah.
In the artworks,
Yeah, and the people we've seen who just came to the exhibition, it's really interesting to see your feedback, because as you say, you are the artist, you present a piece of work, then, it's people who are there to react to it now.
Yeah, no, and absolutely. And I'm getting some lovely reactions and comments, They, people seem to think that it's something that's quite unique, and that they haven't necessarily sort of seen before, and I find that quite remarkable, really.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was such a sort of a unique.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, because I've seen so many art exhibitions in my life, but I can't think of one that has used the same concept of leaving the canvas in nature for 3 months and then, starting to create something from it. So it's definitely something really original, and something, when I discovered your work and your exhibition, when you sent it to me, I thought it was very unique and so interesting, because it also talks to issues that are very current. And in a way, when we see your trajectory, from the past, or the work you've done with Formula One, etc., it's almost like such a nice evolution in your work. And it's interesting. It's the first exhibition of that kind that you've done. And that perhaps, it's just going to open new doors, new creativity for you moving forward. That's amazing.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so much that one can do to, I mean, beauty is important in my work, and the decorative elements. And so, and I think I see, we see that everywhere in nature. So there's so much that I can incorporate as well, that nature gives us.
So what has been the main, so the exhibition has just opened, but what has been the main feedback you've got from people so far?
Well, it's that what I've just been saying. It's this sort of notion of something that they haven't seen before, and also the way it's been sort of documented, the way the work has. So I use a lot of photography in my work also. So there's that documentation of placing the works, collecting the works, putting the coordinates into the artwork.
Yeah, because people can make the link between where the canvases were, and then they can see the art creation as well. So they make the link really easily.
Exactly. And all this sort of organic material that's been placed on the work, and then, I mean, I've sealed it with some resin, some of the pieces, because it's organic. So it needs, but it's almost sort of it's like a moment in time. It's been captured like this sort of palimpsest.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, what are your plans following the exhibition? What is brewing in your artistic mind? I know you said you have many ideas, because you mentioned to me something around developing artistic work around the idea of migration, travel, movements, the places where we live, both in a geographical and philosophical sense. Why are you interested in these topics more in particular?
Yeah, I'm going back to London to see if we can do something there as well.
Okay.
But I'm excited to sort of work on more collaborative pieces. One piece with Simonetti.
Yeah.
And this notion of migration, and understanding who we are, where we are in a sort of, in a political geographical sense as well. And it's like a map, and it's with myself and perhaps an Emirati artist. It's like almost like a three-way, and Simonetti. So it's these sort of, you know, the old sort of two-world vintage antique
Yeah, I love
maps.
that. Yeah.
They have the very decorative element around the sort of frame.
Yeah, that suits you so well. Yeah.
So that way, that would be when, you know, the Simonetti, you know, the mother of pearl surface and the decorative element would work so well. And basically, it's sort of my notion of my world, where I am, and, you know, who I am, my past, my present, and my future, and then maybe an Emirati's notion. So our two worlds come together in the painting, and maybe three worlds with Simonetti as well. And the two worlds of the painting. I mean, I've got this. There's a small piece here that's quite similar, but the two worlds will only be brought together at the opening of the exhibition, which will be amazing, I think. And we'll have a
Really like
launch in
this
London.
idea. Yeah, I really like this idea. I also ask you the question because I've done a collaboration in the past with more of a fashion tech company, but they support refugees in the UK. I'm actually going to an event with them again next week. But I've always been fascinated, you know, by this notion of, yes, people's migrations, because even, you know, if you just look at people who are refugees in the UK, they can come from such different backgrounds and places and countries and cultures, and with all these hopes and dreams as well. And obviously also their baggage and their backgrounds. And it's just so fascinating to see these meeting points and to actually meet them in person as well, and hear about their stories. And that's why I'm like imagining how is Mark going to translate some of it in his work, because migrations is also becoming such an increasingly exponentially big topic, because obviously, you know, we are climate refugees, not only political and etc., like we used to see in the past. So, you know, as we are making the link with nature as well and climate change, that also impacts people migrating and all these travel routes that people take. That's just so fascinating. There's so much to explore there.
Absolutely, and you know, politics gets in the way, and this sort of rise of nationalism and immigration has become a dirty, vile word, you know, and that's how, you know, politicians gaining political points from this, and putting fear into people, where, you know, immigration can be, you know, immigration is as old as, you know, the earth. I mean, it's the earth has changed shape, and that's a form of immigration. You know, the earth moves, and people, you know, birds migrate all the time. Humans do, and it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be this sort of political football that's being kicked around, and it's just sort of engenders fear in the populations, and it's wrong, and so, and it's never as bad as led to believe either, and it's just sort of, you know, so yeah, it's addressing that immigration and migration is really important, and so, and yeah, I mean, as I say, I'm not really trying to give the answers, but it's sort of saying that it's, you know,
Explore. Yeah.
I mean, like I did a project when I was in Brazil, when I was doing stuff also with Formula One, but I had this idea, I had this project called Let's Make Words, Not War. And it's sort of apposite always anyway, but I launched these T-shirts. In fact, we had a launch in Brazil, and we had one in London and in America.
Okay.
And each T-shirt has a letter. So I work with these friends of mine, and they design the letters. So the idea is that the more people buy the T-shirts, then they can come together and make words by standing next to each other, you know, if they all have different letters. So, and that's all about, you know, the whole purpose of that is about, you know, communication and talking. And, you know, if more of the world was sort of communicated and spoken without, then there'll be fewer wars in the world, of course, because if we got to know how people feel, and, you know, politicians and world leaders, if they talk to each other, then perhaps there will be fewer conflicts. So that's this sort of T-shirt, "Let's make words, not war." It got a lot of traction, actually, and in Brazil, and it was great. We had a big launch.
I love the
So
idea.
that's
Absolutely love it. Yeah.
I've got a T-shirt for you in London. I'll give you a T-shirt.
Yeah, we must meet in London when you come back. So, Mark, thank you for these insights about migration. I find it so important, and I think I will have a number of guests on the podcast who are going to have the same conversations about how important it is to connect rather than, you know, staying apart and ignoring each other, because this is when you can understand each other better, and we all have something to gain from it as well. Sometimes people, as you say, see more the fear side and come from a lack perspective, when we have so much to gain from interacting more and connecting more with each other. So thank you for the work you do with your art, because art is definitely a very important connector between topics. And you don't have to, as you say, you don't have to be political about your work. You just let people absorb it, right? And exchange about it. So I like to end this podcast with the same last question, Mark. If you were a color, what would it be and why, to help us learn more about you?
I love these colors. Yeah, I do like blues, actually. I mean, if I were a color, yes. I'm quite sort of introverted, pretty much, but I do like sort of positive colors, not vibrant, or, you know, but blue. Yeah, blues.
So how would you call the blue you have on your shirt?
Well, it's like a sort of a turquoise. Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, I'll take this one. I like
You
the
see
positivity. Yeah.
Yeah. So
let's finish with your exhibition, Mark, because you had an opening evening on the 4th of June. So I wanted to ask you, did you have any nice guests who came to the exhibition?
yes, I did. Yes, some people that came over from London as well, really
Yes.
nice. And Simonetti, Simon, lots of different people that came from, well, the people that I've been connecting with over the years here. So it's a real mix. And local, there's a big department here called the Department of Culture and Tourism, DCT. And they put together all these, you know, these sort of museums and foundations and all these amazing opportunities that they give. So some of those came as well, which is quite nice. So they were fascinated to see it.
Fantastic.
And then, yeah, school kids are going to come as well, which is quite nice. So there'll be a mix. And as I say, people will come. I think people here don't generally tend to sort of all come to the opening evening. they like to sort of come and spend time with the artist and talk to them about the work when they're able to.
Yeah.
So, and in the evenings they do that. They tend to do that more, especially in the summertime when it's a bit cooler.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Amazing. So you have kindly offered to give us a glimpse of the exhibition to finish this podcast. So you are going to take us on a mini tour to give us an outlook. So shall I let you guide us through a selection of perhaps your favorite pieces from the exhibition? And that would be great if you could tell us some of these unique stories, like the Gulf tree that you mentioned. It sounded amazing.
yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I'll start, as I say, in the beginning. Now, I try not to shake it too much.
It's okay.
So shall I flip the camera?
Yeah.
Or shall I do it?
Yeah. Actually, it's quite nice like this, if you can keep it like this.
Yeah, I've got it. I've got it.
The
So
room looks absolutely beautiful.
I'll just show you a view of the, yeah, so as people walk in. So this is part of this is the Manarat. This is a big
Beautiful.
building here.
Yeah.
So then we walk into the gallery. And you see the space. It's a nice big space.
Yeah, very spacious.
This is the first wall. So this is a piece I've left outside. Can you see that? Yeah.
Yeah. So is it like plates that you have used? What is it?
These are round canvas.
Okay.
The canvas, the
Oh,
circular
wow.
canvas that's been, because they're organic material, I put resin over the surface.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think these ones sort of describe well what I've been talking about, this documentation. So these are fragments of the canvases that were left in these locations. So here is the mangroves, and this is a fragment of the canvas that was left with the coordinates. And
Oh,
this
yeah.
is in
I
the
love mangroves. Yeah.
yeah, they're gorgeous. And this is in the bush.
So what did you do? Yeah. What did you do on these pieces yourself? So obviously nature has started the process, and then you add your touch.
Yes, I do, absolutely. You can maybe see it more on some other pieces, but this is the border that I've painted on the canvas before I put it into or placed it into in the locations.
Yeah.
And when they were sort of buried, and you can see, can you see this? It's been sort of ravaged by some creature.
Yeah.
How it came out, like that, and I cut a square. And some of the marks are from the earth, from the pigmentation of the earth. Some are like this one here, with all the rain.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, love the color.
I'll go to this one here. I mean, you can see another. There's a reflection on the window. I don't know if you can see it very well, but this is part of the.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've created this sort of language on them as well, almost like a language of nature with a nod to Arabic. So it's sort of my own sort of language, or conversing with nature, so to speak.
We can see both in the pieces, yeah.
Yeah, and now this one here, this big one, I don't know if you can see it all, can you?
Yeah, it's really beautiful. Love it.
So this was left in the rushes outside at the back of this big hotel here. It's called the Rotana Saadiyat Resort.
Okay.
And it was just sort of left on the beach and the rushes. So this face has appeared.
Oh yes, I remember. Yeah. I think I said I see like more like a bird or a swan, and you see a face.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true. Some people see like this little duck-billed platypus nose here.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
it's like Mother Nature has appeared in the work, and this is my embellishment with the washes and things, and the I try not to do too much. I mean,
Yeah.
some of the work. I mean, these are the pieces I've left quite locally. You see all the leaves.
Yeah.
Well, these are from jasmine
Yeah.
trees.
I think that's part of what I love so much about it, because you can really still see the work of nature, but also your work. And it's such a beautiful co-creation between the two.
Thank you. Yeah. Now I'm going to show you this. So this is the gaff tree.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is where I left the circular canvas
Okay.
in the roots of a gaff tree in the desert. This is that's the tree, which is they're beautiful trees. They look like sort of wings, don't they? Angels.
Yeah.
Which is why I put that there. And then this is the piece that came
Wow.
out 3 months later.
Wow. Where is it from, sorry?
This
Oh,
is
that's
the gaff.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
This is this gaff tree here.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the piece that came out 3 months later. It's incredible.
Wow.
Looks like a landscape, doesn't it?
Yeah, it almost
With
also looks like a wave, this famous wave. Which I noticed.
organic material. Yeah, it's amazing.
Wow.
I was very happy with with how that came out. Really pleased. I mean, I'm pleased with all of them. And this is another bush. And this is the piece. So that's the piece that was cut. And this is a collaboration with the Natural History Museum as well, with the professors there. I think because they're starting a new commissioning program with artists, and so I'm hoping that I can be included in that.
Yeah.
And do something with them. This is another piece that was left outside the rotana.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a weird form on this one. Wow.
Yeah, and this was we went camping in the desert with some friends, and they had this sort of hazard triangle that you put out when you break down. And so I put it in the desert and took photos of it. So it's called a desert hazard.
Oh, wow. Okay. Amazing.
Sort of highlighting, how precious and, the desert. I mean, the desert.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is remember, we were talking about the Two Worlds project with Simonetti, and so this is a little, almost like a
It
sort
does
of
look like a world map almost. That's amazing.
yeah, exactly. And then I can envisage like a big
Looks like my
huge,
map mounds right here that I have behind me.
yes, I saw them.
Wow.
And this is so I'm quite pleased with this. And this is these are all sort of numbers. It's almost like a binary code for for nature, or for the
Yeah.
parts of nature. And then I sort of build up these images. Yeah, these with different different fragments of the canvases from different locations, and put them together.
Yeah.
And
Beautiful, Mark.
and this one here, this canvas was placed on these screens, these covers.
Yeah.
Here in the. So yeah, that's the overview.
So do you have a favorite, or one that's really surprised you?
Well, the gaff tree was amazing.
Yeah.
The gaff tree and the big canvas that was left. But I do, I'm really happy with these are small ones, with the way that they've all come out, really. These are almost like stab marks in the canvas.
Yeah, that's really pretty as well.
These are tiny ones. Yeah.
I like all the colors you added as well. It really works very well in harmony.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm very pleased with and this one, I don't know if you've seen this one. This was left outside where I live, actually.
Mhm.
So looks like a bit of iron that's sort of left its mark.
Yeah,
This coloration, and that's sort of iron.
yeah.
And I did some pencil marks as well.
What is the red cross? Does it have a meaning?
Yeah, well, it sort of works on a couple of levels, really. I mean, it's almost can be seen as a sort of bandage as well, patching up nature, band-aid. But also, it's a good focus of, you know, point of focus visually as well.
Yeah, definitely. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful, Mark. I would like to be there in person to see it.
You could have come over. We'll come to the next one.
Yeah. Or you bring it to London.
Well, yes, I will do. Yeah, I'd like to bring some. Am I going to sit back down now?
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Mark, for taking us on a tour of the exhibition. It's absolutely beautiful, and I'm sure it will be a regal for all the visitors who are in Abu Dhabi or people coming from other countries who I'm sure will come and see it during the month of June. We wish you the best with this new exhibition, and thank you so much for all your insights.
Thank you, Ingrid. I enjoyed that. Thank you. Yeah, it's I'm really enjoying this show, and then hopefully a lot more people will come and talk, because the work needs to be explained, which people like that as well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's so invaluable. I mean, I told you I've seen so many exhibitions in my life. I think the way people present them has really improved over the decades. But for me, there is nothing better than having the artist explaining their work, because it's like letting people enter their worlds. And, you know, obviously you can have your own perception of it, which also participates to the story. But it's so great when the artist can take us on the journey they took themselves.
Fantastic. Well, that's great.
So thank you. Thank you again. Thank you to everyone who is watching and listening. And I will see you all next week with another guest. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Bye, Ingrid.
Bye-bye.